So this is going to be your fourth day at this.
Cool.
We
When am I
ready?
good at it?
Yeah, getting there. We ready to go for it?
Yeah. Okay, so I did this all this morning so I would remember it better. At 9:22, I was thinking of the word is and the I was present. And I was also like looking at the screen, my computer screen, but not really like perceiving it, and I was deciding what I was going to write next.
So I'm not sure I got all of that. So there's the word is and the word if. Are those two separate words?
No, sorry. The
Okay.
word is part of it.
Okay.
40%, and 60% is just the sense that I'm thinking. But it's actually like pretty blank mind. Like I can tell you now what I was thinking, but at the moment, it just seemed like I was thinking.
Okay. So I guess since that's the 60%, let's go with that. So there's a sense that I'm thinking,
Yeah.
but the content is not explicitly present to me.
No.
And retrospectively, immediately after the beep, you could say, I was thinking about such and so.
Yeah, exactly. After the beep, I can tell you I was just sort of reviewing what I'd written and deciding what to write next.
Okay. And so how does the fact that you're thinking present itself? So it's not like just a blank mind, apparently. It's that I understand myself to be thinking. I experience thinking. Is that right?
Yeah, but my experience, though, no, it's really just sort of like, I just sort of feel like it's blank. It's pretty blank, my experience of thinking.
So the experience is of blankness. And then
Yeah,
on retrospection, you can say, well, I was thinking about X.
yeah,
So there's 40% of my experience is on the word is,
yeah,
and 60% of my experience is sort of blank,
yeah,
except that I know retrospectively what's there.
yeah.
Is that accurate?
That's correct.
All right. Then let's go to the is portion. Tell me again about that, because I apparently messed that up.
Okay. I kind of almost don't understand my own note, but I wrote that, well, I was thinking of the word is for sure. But I specifically at that moment, the I was the only part that was present.
And how was the word is or the I present to you?
Um, it wasn't visual, but I think like that like I was aware of the finger that usually goes to type the I.
And so is this a bodily awareness? Are you?
Yeah, it was a bodily awareness. It was like I all of a sudden just focused on like my middle finger in this hand. And because that's where I would type, that's how I would type an I.
So I'm not sure that I've got the full picture here. So at least part of my experience of the I is the finger.
Just a
Right?
tiny little glimmer of it, but yeah.
And then is there more of the I that is present that's beyond the finger?
Um, yes. But um I don't know how exactly. Like it's not like yeah, I think I don't know. That's it.
So let me see whether I got this straight. 40% of my experience is on the I of is. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And of that, a tiny glimmer is the finger of it, so that it's
Yeah.
not like 40% is the finger. It's like a
No.
few percent of the 40% is the finger.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. And the rest is like really hard to describe. I don't know.
Okay. And are you confident that that's what it is? That this is the I of is present to
I'm
me?
100% sure.
Okay. And yet we haven't figured out how to describe how that is present.
It doesn't, yeah, exactly.
There's no speaking involved
No,
and no seeing of it involved. The is not on the computer screen.
nope.
Huh.
I think I was just about to type it.
And so when you say that is was present, but it's really only the I,
Yeah,
does that mean really that it's only the I that is present? And retrospectively, I can say, well, this was going to be the I of is, or
no,
is somehow present, but I'm somehow focused on the I.
right. Is present, but the I was the focus.
Huh.
And is it the letter I or the sound?
It is the letter I.
The letter I, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm good about that, unless anybody's got any more questions. I don't. It seems like we're breaking down things more and more. There was reading, and then there was one word at a time reading, and now there's one letter of the word at a time. And is that just the way it is?
I mean, that's how it was today, this morning at 9:22.
Okay, and I think I'm ready.
Can I ask one more thing about the thinking?
Yeah.
So if I am remembering right, on day 3, there were a couple experiences where you experienced yourself as thinking,
Uh-huh.
and the content wasn't in your experience, but you could say it after. I am gathering this is different than that.
Yeah, this is different. The I was very present and clear. I was thinking actually much broader than that. In retrospect, I know that I wasn't even thinking about the I. I was thinking about what I was going to write next and what I had just written.
And that's the part I'm curious about. So I'm understanding that for this beep number 1 on day 4, there's
yeah.
there's a blankness. That's part of the thinking, or that?
Yeah, it's a blankness, definitely.
And can you say how that compares, if you remember them, to the day 3 beeps? Was that thinking also blank?
Yeah, it's very, yeah, definitely still blank. Like I really can't. The experience in the moment of thinking for me in those instances and in this instance is just like, I wish I could, like, if you were doing like a cartoon character of me, it's like kind of embarrassing, but it'd just be like, and I always do like look to the left and up. Like I'm just like,
As if there's a thought bubble. So are you saying this is similar to those previous thinking experiences where the what I'm thinking about is not there? I'm thinking, I apprehend myself as thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the majority of that experience, but a little 40% sectioned off. Like the letter I was really present for me, but not in a specific visual or auditory way.
Right. Okay. Well, that is all I wanted to know about that one.
Okay.
Number.
Next up, we've got at 9:53. I was saying the word, but not really saying. I'm scare quotes saying the word can't. and I was at the syllable, the NT syllable, and my mouth was in that shape, sort of like I was about to make a T sound. But I only noticed my mouth was that shape after the beep. So I didn't have the experience right before the beep. I also wrote the meaning of the word weren't present at the moment before the beep, though they were the moment before that moment. The computer screen, and specifically a blank part of it, was present in my awareness. I was looking at the patch of white space, the one that I was planning to fill with text next. And I had a very distant, vague sense of planning what I was going to write. So to break it down, I don't know, let's see. The main part I was thinking was I just sort of said can't in my head. And right before the beep, I was at the NT of can't. And after the beep, I felt that my tongue was like at the T, about to make a T sound. And then also I was aware of my computer screen and a little blank patch of white, specifically. And I had that vague sort of blank sense of thinking.
Okay. And of those things, which is the most salient?
The most salient was the NT, the can't, the second syllable of can't.
Okay.
So.
And am I understanding that is an inner word?
Yeah, it was an inner word.
And is it in a voice?
No, it's not in a voice.
Okay.
But I did have the sense that I was producing the word. Like I wasn't listening.
So I have a sense that I am producing the word, but it is not that I'm innerly speaking it. Or I'm producing it, but it's not coming out in a voice.
There's no, it's definitely not being transformed into a voice. I've just got the word and the sound.
Okay. But I am the agent here. This is my word, I'm making this.
Yeah.
Okay. And now did I just hear you say sound? Is that it has a sound but no voice, or?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was at the NT part of can't, right? So there must, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like I didn't have the experience of hearing it innerly. But I was at that sound of the word.
That sound of the word or that portion of the word?
That portion of the word, the NT part.
Okay. So we are maintaining here there was no auditory, there was no audio.
No.
Spoken or heard.
No.
But yet the experiences of a portion of the word that we could call a syllable or a sound or.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you mean to be zoomed in on the NT, or
no?
Is the experience of can't and the beep catches me at the end of it?
The beep just catches me there.
Okay. Does that mean my experience is of can't?
No.
It's more aimed at the word than the portion of the word?
Like, it's not really aimed at all. But the NT was the present part. Like the CA part was in the past.
So I have, let me see if it's not like I've zoomed in on NT. There's not like intention to zoom in on that, but I'm saying can't, and the CA portion is past, and I'm on the NT portion, and that's all that's there?
Yeah. That's all that's present. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that belonged to a whole sentence that I didn't write down and don't remember. But at that moment, that was all I had present.
In terms of how they are present, how does this NT compare to the I of is in the beat before?
Mm. I can't remember what we settled on, but what did I say about the I? But was it the same? Yes, I think so. Let me think. Hold on. Yeah, I think it was very similar, if not exactly the same.
So these word portions are innerly present. They're not in a voice. We're quite sure about which portion it is. It's specific.
Yeah.
But I don't hear anything. I'm not saying anything. And
I think actually, yeah, in both cases, I was just about to type the word too.
Okay. Now, if someone were to say, oh, she's just saying that because the beep makes her hyper-focused on
the last thing,
or, what would you, I don't know, what would you make of that? Do you think that's part of this, or is the experience?
I think that, I mean, I wouldn't normally subdivide moments this thinly, but it seemed, but since I'm supposed to say the thing that happened right before the beep, I'm pretty sure that really was the NT was separate from the CA.
Yeah. Even if the beep hadn't happened, these things are happening that discreetly.
That's a good question. That's the thing. Like, if I think about, like, if the beep hadn't happened, like, the word can't would have long left my consciousness. But I mean, like, like maybe the whole sentence, if you asked me to look back farther, the whole sentence might be present, or the whole letter. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on how far back, how retrospective I'm thinking. But at that very moment, I feel like I can say that I was just at the NT. So possibly I just am hyper-focused on the thing right before the beep.
I don't know. I don't know.
I figured that's kind of my instructions, is to hyper-focus on the thing right before the beep. But I guess the question was it part of a larger unit and I'm artificially subdividing it? So maybe.
Well, it seems like we're going to get lots of chances at this phenomenon. So
today, I know, because I was writing all morning.
So the question, let me ask the questions again, which I think are probably going to be the same questions that Alec asked, but they'll come from me or different rhythm or whatever. And so we are, well, first off, I want to disabuse us of the notion that we are hyper-focused on a very thin slice of time.
Uh-huh.
That is not true.
Okay.
We are not interested in a very microscopic experience. What we are interested in is a pretty clearly defined time. We want to know what the time is that we call 1 microsecond before the beep, but basically we want to know what's happening at that particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing could be a long thing. It could be the whole letter. It could be, I have this whole letter in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be I have a sentence in mind, or it could be I have a word in mind, or it could be an NT in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have a preference for either one, for any of those.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, does Sadie's experience chunk these things naturally into something like a sentence? I can't go to the grocery store or whatever, or into a word, and the word is can't, or into a piece of the word like NT.
I mean, I think that NT was its own unit of thought at that moment.
Okay. That's what we'd understood. That's what I had understood. I think Alec had understood, or we all had understood in the previous days about words, that when you were reading a sentence, that for whatever reason you had pulled out a word as your naturally created chunk. And now today it's that for whatever reason it seems like I am making an even smaller chunk, which is the NT of a word.
I wonder if it's because I was typing like today. Maybe I was reading before, but yeah, and I'm not totally positive that I didn't just like artificially subdivide my can't, but that's the best memory I've got.
Well, and as Alex said a little bit ago, we're going to get to see some more beeps on this day and other days too, probably. But so far, one could say is that the chunks have been getting smaller, and whether that's an artifact of this procedure here, we don't know the answer to that. Maybe we'll figure that out. If the chunks should get longer on some other day, then that would tell us something, and if they would continue to get shorter, then that would tell us something else. We don't know the answer to that. That's what makes this exploration interesting. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's more to this one, isn't there? We've got the white space on the screen. Is that the next most prominent piece here?
Yes, yeah, that's the most prominent thing. I was looking at a little spot, and I had like a silver dollar size spot on my screen of white.
And is your experience about the whiteness or the shape of it, or is it more functional? Like, oh, there's the spot I need to type in, or more sensory, or more?
It's just sensory. It's just like there's a white spot I'm looking at.
And is it particularly about the color or the shape, or
maybe it's about the position in the paragraph, or something like that, but it's more about the location.
Okay. So I'm taking it this is a visual sensory kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm noticing this white spot and maybe especially where it is, its position within. Is it surrounded by text or?
Yeah, I know that I can kind of see the blurry text around it. Okay. But it's really like that little white spot that is clear.
Yeah. I don't much care about the blurry text around it. I'm into the white spot.
Yeah.
And is it your sense that the white spot is there on the screen, that there is a sort of a naturally occurring on the screen spot? Silver dollar size shape, or are you zooming in on this silver dollar shape to the exclusion of all else? And
it doesn't feel like there's a white spot on the screen, no. But when the beep beeped and I looked and I thought about what I was just seeing, that's what I remembered seeing.
And is this spot round like a silver dollar?
Yeah.
With a clear edge like a silver dollar?
No, it's like more like a lens or something. Like it fades, like things get blurry at the edge. There's nothing really in the middle, but yeah, it's like it's not like a sharp edge at all. It's like a fading edge.
Okay. And most computer screens don't have like round pieces on them, in my experience.
Yeah.
And is that true for you too? Or?
Yeah. This is just a flat computer screen.
And the computer screen is generally like lines and rectangles and whatever, but for whatever reason you made a round circle?
Yeah, I was just focused on this little spot, and that was like it was, yeah, but it wasn't like a super again, like it was more like I just know I was focused on a spot, and things were sort of blurry gradually as you go farther from the point in the middle that I was focused on the most. And then they do disappear though eventually, just sort of like fading out.
So it's not so much like I'm seeing a circular spot, but I'm focused in a place that gets more and more unclear as I get farther away from the center of where I'm looking.
Right.
Is there anything else in this experience? I know you mentioned something like a vague sense of
I was
planning.
thinking. Like I
Okay.
had a blank sense of planning what I was going to write next.
And how is that present to you?
It's just like I don't know. It's just like self-knowledge, I guess. It's definitely not present in any sensory way.
Okay. And so I want to know about this word self-knowledge. Is your experience of noticing that you are thinking sort of a meta thing about Sadie, or is it I experience myself vaguely, very inchoately thinking?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the difference.
So I guess one is more focused on Sadie. I noticed that I'm thinking.
Oh, right.
And the other, well, I'm just thinking it's vague and inchoate, not dominant, but I'm engaged in some thinky process of what I'm going to write.
Yeah, the latter.
Okay. And we've had some beeps where the content of the thinking is explicitly present and some beeps where it's not. Where does this fall on that continuum?
This was definitely super vague. Like I didn't have the content at all.
Okay. Okay, then I'm good for this one.
Cool.
In the first beep, you experienced yourself as thinking, but that turned out to be something like nothing. There was nothing going on. For 60% of my experience, nothing was going on. And then retrospectively, I could say I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is this beep number 2 the same as that? Or is it different? It is the same.
Yeah.
So what I can say is that there's 40% or 30% or whatever it is on this particular beep that's nothing.
Yeah.
And that when I retrospectively look back, I can say I was thinking in a planny kind of a way. But that's really not present at the moment. At the moment, there's just a blankness of that aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think I'm good. Number 3.
3 was at 10:22. Okay, here's what I wrote. My mind felt really empty. I know what I was doing at the moment in retrospect. Background, my F key is broken. So I have to write Fs by copying and pasting other Fs. And and I was looking for the letter F in the bottom half of an email I'd written. While thinking about what I was going to write, I was conscious of a little splotch on my screen that included white background and letters, but I wasn't really comprehending it. So my conscious experience was really blank. And it was like mostly just like blank thinking, but a little bit I knew that I was like a little bit the text and the paragraphs I was scanning, what that was sort of in my consciousness as visually. Like I knew that I knew I was skimming a paragraph looking for the letter F, and I had the visual experience of that.
So mostly my mind felt empty.
Yeah.
And is that different from the thinking experience that we've been talking about?
It was a more remote version. Like the content of my thoughts were even farther away from my consciousness.
So for this beep, empty means very, very remote thinking. And in the previous beep, thinking means sort of empty of consciousness, but some presentiment or something of thinking going on.
Yeah. So, but this one, it was very, like, not very remote.
So on the continuum of how explicit the thought is, this is pretty far out at the left-hand tail.
Yeah.
And then tell me again what I'm seeing.
I'm seeing, like, I'm seeing the text on my screen.
And is that my eyes are aimed at it and I'm experiencing it? Or
I am experiencing it. But
and am I looking
as
for
text, though, not as like words or anything.
Say that again.
I'm not like reading it, but I'm conscious of like sort of the black and white shapes of text, on the white screen.
So I'm taking in something of the visual characteristics of the screen.
Yeah.
But I'm not focusing in on any particular letters, not even an F.
No, not that I'm conscious of doing. Though I should have been doing that, but I wasn't conscious of it.
So as a fact of the universe, I'm searching for an F in which to copy.
Yes.
And in my experience, I am seeing letters, but not as letters. I'm seeing shapes that are more sort of lettery, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And it was that same sort of silver dollar focus experience where like there was a clear like part and then sort of things got fuzzier as you sort of spread out from there.
But even the part that is clear is not articulated letters?
Nope.
So it's more articulated than far out, but still not articulated.
Yeah.
And is the clear part again like a center? Is this the silver dollar was kind of circular with the center was clearest? Is this like that?
Exactly.
Cool.
No, I think I'm good.
Number 4.
Okay, so now I'm walking through my kitchen and my husband has left a big mess on the counter. And again, I knew I was thinking. And I knew that I was like sort of thinking about the dishes. And I was also sort of like, I was aware of the dishes, but like sort of, it was like very much sort of peripheral. Like I knew it was more like I cared more where they were than what they looked like. Like I was sensing the dirty dishes to my left, like in a specific location, like some sort of mess robot detector. But I wasn't, but they were just very impressionistic in my actual like visual experience.
Okay. So am I understanding there's sort of 2 things? I'm thinking again, and then I've got this peripheral sense of the dirty dishes?
So
Or those the same thing maybe?
yeah, I think that they were kind of the same thing. Like this time the sense of thinking was like it wasn't really separate and it wasn't that present. It was just a little bit there. And it seems like it was part of the taking in of the dishes. like the like sort of positioning of the dishes.
So really my experience is, the center of my experience is the dishes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dishes or
And
on the leftness of the dishes?
It is really it's not like the dishes themselves, it's like the fact that they are like right in line with my shoulders at that moment, like where they were on the counter. So it was actually, yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, it was where they were.
And where they were in general, like, oh, they're on that part of the counter, or where they are in relation to me. They're
Where they are
in
in relation to my body.
shoulder. Okay.
And because they, yeah.
So I am aware of the position of the dishes as it relates to my body.
Yes.
And is this visual? I didn't quite understand. Like, do I see the dishes?
I do see the dishes, but I'm not like looking at them. It's more like when you glimpse something out of like the corner of your eye, and you know there's like movement there or whatever. I mean, the dishes were obviously not scurrying around, but it was like that when you just like sort of, you can't see something very clearly, but like it's just there. And that's where my attention was focused.
Okay. And the relation to your body, is that experienced in some way we haven't talked about? You know, you mentioned your shoulder.
Yeah, like I had a palpable sense of like how far the dishes were from me. Like almost as if I was making sure I didn't bump into them, though I wasn't going to bump into them, but I was definitely I was mentally measuring the distance between my body and the dishes.
Mm.
And your body in general, or or your shoulder?
I think it was like actually more like, I would say it was my hands actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Both hands?
No, just my this hand, my right hand. And the dishes were to my right. I'm sorry, I get right and left confused a lot.
Okay. So I am aware of the dishes, their position in relation to me, specifically my hand, my right hand, and about the distance and the calculation of that.
It's not really like a calculation. It's really just like a palpable sort of like sense of how far they are. Sorry, I'm plugging in my computer.
That's okay. All set?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to call the palpable sense? So is that like an in my body thing, or like a kinesthetic kind of thing, or like a in the atmosphere? I somehow sense the space between us, or?
Yeah, it's like in the atmosphere. It's like that space is a little thicker or something.
Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm explicitly thinking, oh boy, I've only got 8 inches between me and these dishes.
Yeah.
I somehow feel that, sense that, and it's about the dishes and it's about my right hand.
Yeah.
And is it also about not bumping into them, or was that sort of an aside? Like,
no, that was just like a comparison. Like I guess I just wanted to point out, like, I don't know why I was trying to measure my distance to the dishes, because they were well out of my way.
Okay. And we have not at all talked about, this is about my husband's mess. I'm irritated about the mess. That's all background.
That's background. Like, maybe I felt just a little vaguely annoyed at that moment. And I also know, just contextually, I just know that I was like saying, just ignore it. You can do it later. You've got more important stuff to do right now.
Mm-hmm. But that apparently is not before the footlights of consciousness. That's on some other level.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can I go back to the rightness and the leftness? Because rightness and right and left is obviously, or maybe not so obviously, but relative to something.
Yeah.
So if I'm going forwards, what's right is over there, and if I'm looking at me back forward, then what's over there is left.
Right.
And is there a directionality involved which puts these on the right or on the left or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. I was walking through the kitchen. Like I was walking from one end of the kitchen to the other. We have a really narrow kitchen. And the dishes were they were physically on my right of my body. And I was, so I was, does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, except it doesn't explain why you would have said left in the first place.
I can tell
So
you
I was
why.
I was inquiring as to whether there's something about, there's a perspective out there of me coming towards this perspective, in which case the dishes would be on the left.
Yeah. So sometimes when I have to I wrote down the wrong word. I don't know why I did.
Okay.
But it was definitely wrong. Or at least what I wrote down did not correspond to my memory. And I gave you sort of an amalgamation.
Good with me.
So what I've understood here is that the presence of the dishes to the right is the predominant aspect of my experience.
Yes.
By a big chunk.
Yeah. But it wasn't even though it is the predominant aspect, 100% of my experience wasn't that predominant at that moment. I just was I wasn't really in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm good too. Number 5.
Okay. At 12:37, I was trying to think of the name James Buchanan, and I had just wrote, I had just made the sound of the J. My mind was pretty empty. I was aware of my turned off computer screen. So it was really, we've got just another letter by itself situation.
So I was trying to think of the name James Buchanan. Is that background or is that in my experience?
That is just background. The only thing in my experience at the beep was the sound of the J, but it wasn't an aural experience. It wasn't in my mind's ear. It wasn't in my mouth or my fingers. I was just thinking about the sound of a J.
And by thinking about the sound of the J, do you mean that somehow the sound of a J was present to me?
Yes, it was very present.
Okay. But not heard and not spoken.
Right.
And yet it's the sound of a J rather than the J written portion of a J.
Right. It's a sound for sure.
The sound without any sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then you said your mind was empty. Does that mean, well, I'm just focused on the J and that's it?
It really, yeah, when I say empty or blank, that's not really accurate, but I guess, but I'm not really concentrating on the J or anything. It's more like I'm just sort of not I don't have a specific feeling like I'm thinking either, like before. but I just am sort of like floating. I'm just sort of floating along.
So not really concentrating on anything.
Yeah.
And I'm also gathering that your eyeballs are aimed at the turned off computer screen.
Yes, it was. And I was conscious of a little glimmer of light on the bottom, like left quadrant of my computer screen.
Like a reflection of something on the screen?
Yeah. So it was turned off. The computer was off, but like there was some light reflecting on the screen from external.
And is that more present to me, less present to me than the J, or doesn't that question make sense?
It's less present.
So mostly I'm sort of floating along.
Yeah.
The number one present, which is not terribly present, is somehow the sound of the J, and
Yeah.
then there's the glint on the computer screen
Yeah.
that's even less present.
Yep.
And is there anything more to be said about that?
That's it for that one.
So the sound of the J without the actual sound.
Yeah.
And the glimmer reflection on my computer screen.
Yep.
Okay.
And that all is basically not much.
Yeah.
Not much concentration on there.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 6.
Okay. I was reading a word that began with a TH. Let's see. And then I wrote, in retrospect, I can say I was wondering why light doesn't bend around corners like other types of waves. But I didn't have like a very concrete, like I had a sense of thinking for sure, but that specific question wasn't present in my sense of thinking. And I was reading and I had come to the TH, and the TH was present in my mind for sure. But I didn't really write down if it was like, I mean, I imagine it was present visually, but the TH was present somehow.
And so another one of these experiences where there's just a chunk, just a portion of the word?
Yeah, I was just at the first 2 letters of some word.
Okay. And we're not totally sure how they were present.
Not sure. It wasn't like the consonant blend was present. It was the letters themselves and that little unit TH. It wasn't like the sound.
Okay. So this is more like the I from is than the J from James.
I can't remember, but I'll take your word for it.
I think if what you're saying is this one is not about the sound. This is the letter portion.
This is the letters. And I was reading too, like.
Mm-hmm. Is reading in your experience beyond or aside from just the TH? Like am I reading with comprehension at the moment of the beep? I'm into whatever I'm reading, or is that somehow happening outside awareness?
Yeah. I don't have I don't think that I was consciously even thinking about what I was reading at that moment, because I was thinking about the previous sentence. Or not because, but I was thinking about like a different part of the page, and I was continuing onward with the reading, and I was like at the TH of some word.
And is the different part of the page, did that have something to do with light bending around corners? Is that what spurred that thought? Or
yeah, I think like I just read a sentence. I just read something about how light doesn't bend around corners, and I was like, well, it's supposedly a wave. Like, why doesn't it do that? And then, I mean, and the answer is like probably because it's very small wave, but that's what I was like asking myself that question in a very vague way while I was trying to read on, and I was at a TH.
Okay. So something I read before the beep spurs this thinking process, and I keep reading on, not really with directly present awareness of it, but I'm still reading, and at the beep I'm on TH, and that's present to me.
Yeah.
At the little letter unit. And then at the same time, there's this vague, or maybe not so vague, thinking about why light doesn't bend around corners. Help me understand, like, where on our continuum of, explicit thought to like totally remote thought.
It was totally remote. It was totally remote, but I still, like, in retrospect, know what I was thinking about.
So is the wave question at all present to you before the beep?
At the moment of the beep, the question was not particularly present. It was after the beep when I was like, oh, I was like thinking about light waves.
So I would like to clarify my understanding of Alex's previous question. So we've had some samples where it was like, my experience was that there was nothing going on.
Yeah.
And then later on I could say, well, yeah, I was probably thinking about something, but it was so inchoate that it was like almost nothing.
Yeah.
And then there's some other beeps where I have said that I was thinking about something, but actually that experience was sort of like nothing as well. But the nothing was more thinky than the other kind of nothing.
Yeah.
And so where does this fit into that?
So on the plot of what are our two features? It was like how clear it is that I know what I'm thinking and how present the experience of thinking is. It was not very present.
So this was at the sort of the nothing end of the experience of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Including that the content is not directly present or very present?
It was not present. Like the TH was the most present thing.
So I'm thinking that this is another of those pretty inchoate thinkings. It's not a very strong or something. And after the beep, I can tell you, well, I was actually having this fairly complex thought.
Yeah.
But that was not directly present to me when the beep interrupted.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I thought this one was so funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I got to check, make sure that I'm right. So is it the case that there is some kind of a continuum of how much my experience seems like thinking, and that's separate from how much I know about what I'm thinking about, because most of the time I don't know what I'm thinking about. But even when I don't know what I'm thinking about, there is sometimes experience that seems sort of like thinking, and other times experience that's mostly nothing, and yet I retrospectively know I was thinking.
Yeah, it's almost like an experience of effort. Like sometimes I sense that I'm thinking pretty hard, and like, but I don't have a real experience of what I mean, I don't usually know what I'm thinking about or how I'm thinking about it. And then other times, like, I'm just spacing out, kind of like I'm thinking about something, but it's not like goal directed.
Okay.
Like, I'm not trying.
And then you have more questions about that, Ellen?
Mm-mm.
Then I'm still a little bit interested in the TH sound.
Yeah.
So does it seem like the TH is your natural chunk as opposed to a word like then or whatever?
Yeah, the TH is the chunk that I was looking at that was present to me.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask a question which might be an impossible question, probably is an impossible question to answer, but I'm interested in what, to the extent that I can figure it out. Does it seem like if there were a parallel universe that had no beeper,
Yeah.
but that was lined up exactly along with this beeper? So my question is, in that parallel universe without a beep, is it your sense that you're getting these little chunks of words, the th and smaller than the word, and the and apostrophe t that's smaller than the word? I'm getting a little chunk of a word, chunk of a word, chunk of a word, chunk of a word going along, as opposed to, well, probably I'm getting the whole word, but the beep somehow causes me to just chunkify a little piece of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a possible question to answer.
Yeah.
If we could answer it, I would like to know the answer, but I'm not sure that it's possible to answer.
I think that if the whole word was present, I would have written down the whole word. But for some reason, I felt like it was just the th.
So it does not seem like it is the beep that splits the word in half. It's
Right.
that the word is already split in half, and the
Yeah.
beep catches the th half.
Yeah, I think so.
It's interesting.
Totally. We shall see.
So that's number 6.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're going to move.
I'm moving.
And so do we want to do this again after a move or not at all? Or?
Oh, I can do it next week. It doesn't. I always have an hour to spare.
Okay. And internet in the new house?
We do have internet. It's not as fast, though. It's going to be
out the woods.
I know. It's going to be shaky, weird, rural internet.
We'll make it work.
All right. Well, you all work that out and let me know.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
And good luck to you. That moving is always an adventure.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it is.
Well, good to see you both.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.